Hello, I'm Susanna Green. I'm the math technologist at Fanshawe College. We're now going to look at using SOH CAH TOA to find an angle in a right triangle. So in this video, we're going to be looking and finding angles in a right triangle using sine, cosine and tangent. And we use this acronym SOH CAH TOA using a calculator. So we want to make sure that our calculator is set to degree mode when we're using any of the trigonometric ratios, so such as sine, cosine, tangent. So I've just set that to degree mode. And we're going to look at some questions to demonstrate using SOH CAH TOA. So question 1, we're going to find side H and round to the nearest whole number. For this triangle here. So we're given this right triangle as indicated here, and we're given that this angle is 25 degrees and the hypotenuse is 10 meters, and then we want to find this height h here. So we're going to use SOH CAH TOA, so I'm just going to write that here as a reminder. And the trigonometric function that we're going to use is dependent on the information we're given in the question. So primarily we're going to indicate the angle 25 degrees. The side that's opposite that angle given is then known as the opposite side. The longest side, which is opposite the right angle, we know is the hypotenuse, so 10 meters here. So because we want to find h, which is the opposite side, and we've got the hypotenuse, we know that that's connected with sine. So sine theta, so that's just the Greek letter we use for an angle, is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. So that just kind of helps us to remember that calculation. So the angle that we have, 25 degrees, and again, that's why it's important that we have our calculator in degree mode. We've got our opposite side, which is called h, over our hypotenuse, which is 10. So now to locate h, we're just going to do the algebra around that. So dividing by 10 on this side, so take over to multiply by 10 on the other side, and we have this calculation here. So using your calculator in degree mode, make sure you can locate the sine key and do 25 equals, that gives me a 0.4226, ... multiply it by 10. Okay, that gives us a value of 4.226 and so on. And the question asks us just to round it to a whole number, so we're just going to round that to 4. And we're going to make sure we put in the correct units of meters here, 4 meters. So now we've found that side length using the sine function, and we worked it out to be 4 meters here. Okay. The next question, number 2, is we're going to work out, calculate side A in this diagram, and again round to the nearest whole number. And this is the diagram that we have here. Okay, so we know the side A, which is one of the smaller sides, is indicated here. Now, how we label this with the hypotenuse, the adjacent or the opposite side, is indicated by the angle that we're given in the question, the 20-degree angle. So we know the side that we want to find A is adjacent to the angle given, the 20 degrees, and we recognize the longest side of 12 meters is the hypotenuse. So now we want to connect the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So again, using SOH CAH TOA, we see the connection here of adjacent and hypotenuse connects cosine, cos. So now we know what connects the adjacent and the hypotenuse is cosine, cos. Cos of theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So now we can put in our values. We've got an angle of 20 degrees. Our adjacent is A, the side that we want to find, over the hypotenuse 12. And again, we can rearrange this so that we can isolate A, dividing by 12. So bring that over to multiply by 12. So we're working out this calculation. So use the cosine on your calculator. Cosine of 20 degrees gives me a 0.9396 ... I'm going to multiply it by 12, and then it gives me this value on the calculator. Okay, and again, we're just going to round it to the nearest whole number, 11, and we have units of meters, so we can write our answer as 11 meters here. So now we've found one of the shorter sides as 11 meters. Question 3. So now we want to determine the value of y to 2 decimal places for this diagram. So we know that this is the right angle. So again, we can only use SOH-CAH-TOA when we have right angles, a right angle triangle. So we want to find this length y. We're told that this length is 7 meters, and we're told this angle is 30 degrees. Okay, so the diagrams are not drawn to scale, it's just an approximate diagram here. So again, using our SOH-CAH-TOA, we want to label the diagram accordingly. So the starting point is the angle that we're given in the question, 30 degrees. We know the side opposite that is y, which is what we want to find for this question. And we know that the side that is adjacent to the angle given, 30 degrees, is our 7 meters here. So now we've identified the 2 sides in this question, the opposite and the adjacent. And then we can recognize that tangent, or tan, connects both opposite and adjacent. So now when we have tan theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. So we're just going to plug in those values, 30 degrees. Our opposite is the y value that we want to find, over 7. And again, just to rearrange that so that we're now going to work out this calculation. So use the tan, 30 degrees equals, and that gives me 0.57735 and so on. Multiply that by 7, and then that's going to give us this value on the calculator. Again, not a whole number, it's not going to give us a convenient value, but the question is asking us to round it to 2 decimal places. So we're going to go 1, 2, the third decimal, which is a 1. So we know that we're just going to write our answer as 4.04, and again, put in the correct units of meters here. Okay, and question 4, we're now actually going to find an angle instead of a side. So find angle theta in this right triangle. And again, we can have that triangle any orientation, but we indicate the right angle using that symbol there. Now, the angle that we want to find is indicated here, which is theta. We know this side is 3, and we're told that this side is 5. So again, we want to label those correctly according to SOH-CAH-TOA, and the angle that we have, now we know that the side adjacent to that is the 3, next to, adjacent just means next to, and opposite the right angle is our hypotenuse. So we know that that side is 5 here. So again, using SOH-CAH-TOA, we have the adjacent and the hypotenuse, and we want to find the angle. So what connects adjacent and hypotenuse must be cosine here. So we know cos of theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Theta is what we want to find, so we're just going to leave that. The adjacent we've identified is 3, the hypotenuse is 5. Okay, so now we have this calculation. Cos theta is equal to 3 over 5, or 3/5. Now, to find theta now, we have to use the opposite of cosine, which is inverse cosine. And we would write it like this. So now our angle that we want to find in degrees is the inverse of cos of 3 over 5. Okay, so again, this takes a little bit of practice on your particular calculator. So how I would put this in my calculator is I would do 3 divided by 5 equals 0.6. I'm then going to use the second function, or the shift function, of cos, because that gives me the inverse cos of 0.6 now, equals, and then it's going to give me this value on the calculator, and so on, for theta. And because it doesn't tell us to round this in any particular way, we're going to just choose to round it to 2 decimal places. So we normally default to that unless we were told otherwise. So our third decimal is 0, so that means that's just going to give us an angle of 53.13 degrees. And again, make sure you put in the degree sign so we write our answer in context. We've indicated that angle there. So now, just some key takeaways when we use SOH CAH TOA. So when using sine, cosine, tangent, make sure your calculator is in degree mode, not radians, because that won't work. Okay, then the second point is we want to label the right triangle. The uppercase A, B, and C for the angles, or the vertices where those angles are, and the sides, lowercase a, b, and c. And then just to answer our question, we want to just check the rounding required and put in units as appropriate, just to put and write our answer in context. And finally, then, there is a question for you to try. So this question for you to try and practice is find the angle P, lowercase p, in a right triangle where the hypotenuse is 20 and another side is 10, and the angle between them is angle P. Okay, and you should find that the angle P will give you a whole number answer, 60 degrees here, for you to practice. Again, draw a diagram, label it, and then work out which sine, cosine, tangent you're going to use from SOH CAH TOA as a reminder. If you need extra help, please reach out to me using the links provided in the description below. Also, check out the other videos in the series. Thanks for watching.